Uber drivers, what's the deepest secrets you've overheard in your car? 1. Two girls talking about how they fucked the same guy. Both agreed his dick was too big and he was hurting them by lasting too long. Both concluded he was gay. 2. Two middle-aged couples trying to agree to a foursome. I could go on for days with these, but this one takes the cake. It's not a secret, but just one of many insane experiences. So I picked up a guy in a suit at around 6 p.m. on Tuesday near Venice, California. He told me to take him downtown and per usual I asked if he had a preferred route and he said, no, whatever is quickest. We get going and the usual banter begins. So how long have you been driving for Uber? Me, 1 year or so. It's a great job. He says, oh cool, where do you stay at? I answer, in the valley, and he says, oh nice. So, how long have you been driving for Uber? I paused and kind of half smiled, thinking he was fucking with me. He wasn't. So I answered verbatim, 1 year or so. It's a great job. He goes, oh cool, where do you stay at? This repeated 3 more times before I finally answered it differently, saying I just started, it's not for me. And him again replying, oh cool, where do you stay at? I answered one last time the original way, but then finally, silence. By this point I was on the 10 highway, stuck in rush hour traffic. I look in my rear view and he is rubbing his head and hair profusely, like someone going through withdrawals. He took his suit jacket off and looked severely uncomfortable. Dialed 911 on my phone in case shit went down. He then out of nowhere yells in a deeper voice than earlier, fuck. And I said, sir, is everything alright? And he goes, where are we? I said, I'm on the 10 headed downtown, is that still okay? He goes, yes. At this point, by the graces of the universe, we ended up moving pretty quickly through traffic. Then, right before we exit off the 10, 2 miles or so from his apartment, he yelled again, where are we? I said, sir, we're almost to your house, is that still okay? And he goes, yes, that's fine. Once we arrive, I pull up to drop him off and he gathers his stuff, opens the door and looks back in at me before walking away and in the most genuine, kind way, says, have a great night. Watch out for crazy people. Honestly, one of the strangest, creepiest events ever. Subsequently, I bought a stun gun / taser, and luckily so, as this was just the beginning of several crazy incidents. So damn glad I don't drive anymore. Edit, wow, thanks for all the responses. I think of all the suggestions, drugs seem to be the most reasonable. Dementia is possible, but the way he was sweating and getting increasingly uncomfortable in the backseat make me think it was something artificial kicking in. I picked up this young overly affectionate couple that spent the entire trip making out in my backseat and telling each other that they loved each other. Cute. So I drop off the couple and head on my way to pick up my text fare. I hear a cell phone ring in my backseat, realize it's my previous rides, and pick up the phone to let them know I have it and I'll come back to drop it off. Turns out it was the guy's wife phoning to check in on him while he was on a business trip, which he was thoroughly enjoying with his mistress. Uber passenger here, had a driver tell me he was changing his name to Nilrem, because it was Merlin spelled backward and he was a wizard. Once I had an extremely drunk middle-aged couple fight for an entire 30-minute ride. They attempted to bring me into their fight many times. I just pretended like I was deaf and didn't answer when they tried to rope me into it. I know this is the opposite of what you asked because I'm a passenger, not a driver. I had an Iraqi driver tell me he was an engineer in Iraq before the first Gulf War and he developed a superior means of gilding furniture, chandeliers etc., which you can imagine was hot in pre-war Hussein-ville. Well, Uday wanted to go into business with him, but, and this is a direct quote, first Uday wants to be your partner in business, then he wants to be partner in your wife. Words to live by. Edit, thanks for the gold, don't let Uday catch you. Passenger here, not driver. I live in NYC and I had to call the suicide hotline while coming home in an Uber from work because it was only place where I could be more or less alone. I am so thankful to the driver for being patient while I was crying and saying really fucked up things. It was so obvious it was the last thing he wanted to deal with that night. My friend Ubers in my hometown picked up some really nice girls out on first Friday. They're talking about their plans for next autumn. Guy thinks he recognizes one of them, turns out to be my younger sister, and he tells me all about it. And that's how I found out my little sister was moving to Spain. Drove Uber one night. It was pretty tame until I picked up two guys who wanted to go to a strip club 40 miles away. They requested an Uber Select fare. I was happy to drive that far. $80 to $100. It took them 15 minutes to get ready and into the car, and they seemed cool, so I wasn't worried. As soon as we got on the freeway, the guy in the passenger seat started asking about Uber driving and things got dark. After a few minutes he started saying shit like, what would you do if someone just grabbed the steering wheel and ran the car into the median, and have you ever thought about what would happen if someone in the back seat tried to strangle you while you were driving? I got a little freaked out and tried to lighten the mood by asking what they were celebrating, etc., but the one guy just kept at it. I was happy to get to the strip club and get them the hell out of the car. Bonus was the bouncer at the club gave me $40 for dropping them off there. I never drove Uber again. Fuck that. Edit. And my highest rated comment ever was the result of one night of Ubering. Thank you everyone. Former Uber driver here. Picked a girl up, a sweet girl from a bar on a Wednesday night, absolutely hammered, about 10 p.m. She got into my car, apologized for being so drunk, and politely asked if we could just drive around a little while, with the windows down. I was prepping for a cleaning fee, trying to drive and pull a vomit bag out of the glove box, but no, she just did that airplane thing with one hand out the backseat window. She asked me if I had ever thought about dying, to which I replied, yeah, I guess so. That's when she told me that she had cancer. It was in her brain and it was too far gone to consider chemo. I remember my heart just pounding. She told me she was dying and she was going to be okay. Tonight she was celebrating with her work friends who threw her a going away party. She told them she was taking a position abroad. I just didn't tell them that abroad was heaven. Jesus fucking Christ. I turned off my app and cried my ass all the way home. Picked up a girl mid-Saturday. She was a bit upset and a little teary and opened up to me. Turned out a business she had started was failing and she was in debt and had turned to stripping on the side to cover the bills. She said the pay was good, but she kept getting really sick from all the booze she felt obliged to drink. Part of her job was making guys spend money at the bar. She hated it and felt trapped and kept asking me what I would do in her situation. I'm a guy, so kind of hard for me to answer. Tried to give her the best advice I could think of, like getting the tax office to withhold tax for a while, but couldn't help really. Only thing I could do was end the trip early. Other one was a couple of off-duty cops who didn't want their friends to know they were using it. Uber is still in a legal gray area here. I picked up a guy from a gay bar and he was noticeably coming on to me. He then confessed that he was one of the founders of a very popular gaming company and offered me $2,000 to come up to his room. He also refused to leave my car unless I kissed his hand. Fun times. Took this 19-year-old kid's and what I assumed was his GF back to her house on Pride weekend in SF. They made out the whole ride. When I dropped them off, only she got out. He said take me to Castro and 18th. I said really? And he said yeah, I only make out with girls when I'm rolling. Never a dull moment in San Francisco. Never overheard a juicy secret, but plenty of interesting packs. One time I had a group of 3 guys, probably around my age, mid-20s. They seemed nervous, avoided eye contact, and were pretty much silent from the moment they hopped in. I tried confirming the destination, asked how their night was going, etc., but only got muffled mumbling in return. As always, I worked the situation out in my head in a calm, rational manner. Something like, are these guys trying to rob me? Jack my car? Did they just kill somebody? Am I an accessory to murder? Do they have knowledge of the impending apocalypse? But as my paranoia routine winded down, I slowly started to realize what was going on. Between the beads of sweat, occasional jaw clenching, and finally, random giggle outbursts. These kids were tripping fucking balls. Once it hit me, I called them out immediately and told them I was cool. They looked so relieved. I started blasting music, some Humphries McGee I do believe, and they just started geeking out by that point. Fun ride. At the end of the ride, the guy that sat up front tossed me a bag of shrooms. Good times. It wasn't so much weird as it was random, but my first night driving for Uber/Lyft, I picked up a dude at 2:30 AM that was finishing up a pub crawl. The dude was dressed in a purple dinosaur onesie and was hammered. He got in and started telling me his entire life story and how he came out to his parents and moved across the country the next day. I am not an Uber driver, but I have one that was told to me. This driver told me that he picked up his last fare for the day and it did not have a final destination. Dude gets in the car coked out of his mind, yelling on the phone. The guy says drive to Vegas, here. And the guy tosses $500 bucks at him. That is on top of the Uber fare, which apparently was surge pricing. So the guy drives him to Vegas. From Los Angeles takes about 4 hours. The whole time the guy is talking/yelling on the phone to his mom. They get to Vegas and he drops the dude off at some mansion where his mom is outside waiting to yell at him. Apparently the guy forgot about giving him the cash because he tossed another few $100 at him, got out of the car and split. Picked up a girl who had to go to work across town. Her boyfriend and her were arguing in the parking lot as I was approaching. Girl gets in my car and she's worried she's not going to get to work on time and she would be fired if she was late. Get about a block away and my phone rings. I answered and tried to get it off my Bluetooth stereo to no avail. The person on the other line was her BF and he said he wanted to apologize about his GF and that I shouldn't listen to her because she was a crazy BTCH. She heard all of it and didn't say a thing. Very awkward. Finally get her to work and she asks me to stay in the parking lot as she goes in and quits her job. She gets back a few minutes later and on the way home tells me that her boyfriend once broke her arm in an argument and that he was going to be very mad at her and she was worried about going back home but to take her there anyway. Ended up dropping her off and calling non-emergency, but I have no clue if anything ever happened with it.